Alrighty, it's noon on the dot. I'm Fox 19 now, First Alert Meteorologist Brad Maushart. If you're still with us, you have survived the snowpocalypse, and now we get ready for the deep freeze, the second half of this system. And, first off, I just want to start off by thanking everybody because you guys, I always ask, because I like to have fun. If I'm going to get stuck here working a big snowstorm on a weekend, I want some funny pictures coming through. So I asked for that ahead of time. I usually do, but I think this time I don't know how many have come through, and they're still kind of trickling in of people that are just now kind of getting out there and exploring. It's over at least like 50 or 75 pictures of very weird snow measurements. And I'm going to try to share with you just a very few of these, right? These are just the most recent ones I've used on air. I'm going to try to compile a gallery or an album or whatever on Facebook and put that together. Give me a second here. I'm going to try to get on this Facebook too, just so I can monitor the comments. All right, bear with me as there we go. All right, so good Monday afternoon, everybody. Hopefully, you've weathered the storm a little bit. I know it's been kind of rough. Some spots over 10 to 15 inches of snow, and it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So just be prepared for the long haul here. It's going to be very, very cold this week. That's the second half of this big winter storm. It gave us the cold we needed for almost all snow through the weekend, and now it's not going anywhere. This first of two, yes, we have another one. Two Arctic highs are going to settle in, and the first of which is with us right now. And that's why we have an extreme cold warning. We're going to talk about that too coming up in just a bit. How about some photos? Let's go. I'll just make them full screen. You don't have to look at me. There we go. How about this? We had 4.5 tuna cans worth of snow. Abraham sent that in. I'm not sure where from, but you can see there we're up to the fifth can almost. Almost at the top of the fifth can. 4.5. We'll call it 4.5. Thanks for sending that in, Abraham. We also had this, Let It Now, because so much snow, 9 inches over in Delhi. Robin sent this one in. It now just says, Let It Now. So, yeah, the snow, ruining the snow sign, it turns out. Just too much snow. 9 inches in Delhi, and that was one of the lower amounts that we saw. Dogs, I was saying this at the noon show, but they're kind of 50-50, right, when it comes to snow. There's like 50% of the dogs that love this, usually the ones with the big, thick fur coats. And then you have the dogs that, like, kind of low to the ground, like the wiener dogs and some of the other droopy-looking dogs. Those dogs hate this, and so this dog at least was having a good time. Out in the snow, how about this? I have a weather goat. You saw me measuring the snow with my weather goat. How about an actual weather goat? This goat has to be freezing cold. Hopefully they put that goat back inside. This goat measuring the snow, it's one full goat full of snow out there in southeast Indiana. Jeremy sent that one in. Of an actual goat, having one-up me there on the snow measurements. And then not only was wine a common theme, wine was easily the biggest thing I got from this winter storm in terms of the number of photos sent in measuring with the wine, which might say something. But bourbon was also a common theme. We had a bottle of vodka in there. We had a bottle of rum in there. I've had a little mix, full bar full of measuring options out there. This one up to the top of the Eagle Rare logo there. Shout out to Buffalo Trace. You too could sponsor this. So anyway, send all your pictures if you ever have any photos there to fox19.com/pics. We always love to share them with you. I always love to look at them because, to me, it gives me something to do while slowly watching snow numbers tick up. So here, speaking of, are some of the official totals. Now, I did have some measurements come in that were a little higher than this. I had some at 16, some at more than that. Also had several less, especially southeast of town. So these are the highest official reports compiled by the National Weather Service. Sunman at the top of the board. I had a lot of high amounts over in southeast Indiana. Sunman at 14.6, 14.2 in Batesville, not too far away, just a couple interstate exits up the road there. Franklin, Ohio, 13.3. Aurora had 11.2. Another Indiana report there, Versailles at 11 plus. The International Airport officially ended the day yesterday with 10.2 inches of snow. It was a new daily record, but not the all-time record for one day of snowfall. We missed it by just a few inches. So the storm total, 10.2 for the International Airport, which we hit 9 something yesterday. That was 9.2 yesterday was the record, right? We had another inch on Saturday, so it was 10.2 total. 9.2 was the official record set at the airport. And that takes us to our weather number of the day, which is 22. And I don't know, and nobody's going to try to guess here really soon. And I got to, keep talking anyway. But 22, that is the 30-year average for seasonal snowfall in inches for the tri-state. We should see 22 inches with our latest 10.2. We are now at 24.3 for the season. That's guaranteed a surplus, obviously, by 2.3 inches. But we are running 13.2 ahead of schedule for this day. To date, we're 13.2 ahead. Ahead of where we should be, because it was looking a little dicey there for a minute. We had a big surplus through November and December. Then we, got most of that surplus to go away. It wasn't just, 2 weeks ago that we saw record-breaking heat? Big turnaround. I told you, January, the end of it, was going to be a mess out there, and here we are. And that cold is going to be sticking around as much as the snow will be. Not a lot of new snowfall the next 7 to 10 days, but the snow that we do have is not going anywhere anytime soon. 56.1% of the country now covered. If you remember last week, I brought this map up, and I told everybody, we were at 25% of the country covered. So we've added 30% to this map, and it goes now all the way from central Texas to everywhere else in between, including right here in the tri-state where our snow depth at times averages, I don't think the color table on this is right. I might have changed on accident. I might have overwrote it because there's obviously much more than 2 inches on the ground. So anyway, and a few flakes are trying to fly out there. Here's the other problem. It's a little breezy outside right now. We have obviously some of that powdery snow at the ground level. We have a few flakes trying to fly outside. Yeah, so you were measuring in Butler County 17 inches. Yeah, so there's a lot of snow out there, and the breeze, we're seeing some gusts over 20 miles an hour. It doesn't take much to blow some of the snow back onto your driveway, or especially back onto the roadways. I know a lot of the travel advisory map has improved over the last hour. I just posted it to Facebook. Even if you're a level 2 and if you don't have to get out and about, I know it's hard staying cooped up at home, but while the roads, in my personal experience, which is not a long drive to work, have improved significantly since yesterday, they're still not great. I don't know if I want to try taking my personal vehicle home today yet because it's not amazing in the snow. I don't know if I'll make it up the hill / mountain. So with that, if your car's not great in snow, I still wouldn't try it today if you don't have to, right? But if you have 4-wheel drive, I think you can get around a little bit better than what we saw outside yesterday, or all-wheel drive. Just take it easy because we will see those slick spots, even though road crews have been, painstakingly try to get that snow off. You can see the windy icon showing up over at the airport. That is a gust over 20 plus that we're seeing outside. And it makes our 12 feel like a nice, cool, crisp 4 below. That is where we're at right now. Let's see, when should we anticipate a warm-up? All right, that's a good question, which I promise I'm going to get to. I'm going to talk all about it because it's just not there. You're asking about a warm-up. The closest thing we have to a warm-up is 10 days away. So we'll talk about it, but it's a long ways out. We are going to be stuck with this cold and a lot of this snow for quite a long while. Feels like temperatures right now, most of the tri-state below 0. Falmouth coming in at a balmy 6. If you're looking for the heat wave, you'll have to drive down that way. The rest of us, well below 0, and it's only going to get colder outside this evening. We are in the midst of our first of 2 cold Arctic blasts that we're going to be seeing this week. This one stays with us through the day tomorrow. We'll see some chills tomorrow morning, 25 below. Right, miserable. Not actual temperatures, but feels like temperatures, and that's why we have the extreme cold warning in place. So that area of high pressure settling in off to the west, winds around a high, they spin in a clockwise direction, so it's dragging down that cold Arctic air and dumping it right over the Midwest. Miserably cold. Tomorrow, that area of high pressure slides a little bit farther east. It slides over top of us. That's what gives us the bitter cold morning. And then by tomorrow afternoon, we will rebound a bit to 20 degrees. That's our warmest temperature we're going to see for the entire work week and the weekend. 20, that's as good as we get. That's 12 degrees shy of the freezing point. That's why the snow's not going anywhere. We're not going to add a lot of new snow, but it's just going to be very, very cold. By the end of the week, a second Arctic high takes a dive into the Great Plains. That cools us down again. Don't be surprised, because a lot of the country right now under that deep blue shade, that's an extreme cold warning. And it's not just us. So I move this map around. You'll see just pretty much exactly where all the winter storm warnings were yesterday. Now they've been replaced by extreme cold. So, I mean, it's a really significant cool down. That is sticking with us tomorrow. It goes into effect at 6 o'clock. It expires tomorrow. And what it means, again, that extreme cold warning is that you can see some wind chill values 15 to 25 below zero or lower. You know, you want to limit your time outdoors. You can get a frostbite in less than 30 minutes. If you are going to go out and get, you know, maybe you didn't get a jump on the shoveling this weekend for whatever reason, if you're doing it, cover up everything, right? Wear gloves, wear a mask if you can over your face, because it will be very, very chilly. With that said, check on your neighbors too, and especially the elderly. If you have an elderly neighbor that doesn't get out all that much anyway and probably can't get out to shovel their own snow, please check on the neighbors. Be a good neighbor, because, you know, with this kind of cold, it's prolonged. It's going to stick with us for the rest of this week. Not this cold in particular, but don't be surprised if by Friday and Saturday morning we don't see another extreme cold warning put into place, because I do have our wind chills kind of earmarked here at about 15 plus below zero, both Friday and Saturday mornings. So very, very cold. Every low temperature this week is going to be below zero. So that has dropped a little bit. That changed from last week's forecast. It was still cold, but this is going to be a little bit colder. When you have a big blanket, you know, a big snowpack like this on the ground, it tends to like make the air around it like a refrigerator. It's just like, you know, putting ice in a cooler. It cools things down. It keeps things chilly on top of that Arctic air mass pulling in. So that's what we're dealing with. It just kind of makes it worse and, you know, continues to worsen the situation with that snow sticking around. Here's tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Not great. You know, very, very chilly out there. We're going to wait through Wednesday, a little warmer, and Thursday, you know, warmer is all relative. Owen County coming in at 1 above zero. Big warm up there. And then by Friday, it goes crashing down again. Most spots here on a Friday with the breeze are going to be running 20 plus below zero. Same for Saturday morning. And then we finally start to see the temperatures tick up a little bit from there on out, after that next Arctic high gets out of here. But it's not, you know, no significant warm-ups if you're hoping for that. Here we go through the weather timeline. Here's the one and only piece of good news I think I have, is that we don't see a lot of additional snowfall. I don't have any big snowstorms on the horizon. By the way, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I didn't notice it and I wasn't really paying attention, but I had my boss yesterday ask when I started talking about this, because they thought I started talking about this winter storm a long time ago. So I went back and looked, and at least I saw some footage from the broadcast. I think it was 4 o'clock on the 15th. So that would have been, 10 days, 9 days in advance, I started talking about this winter storm. So I didn't have totals or a really good idea of how much we were going to see, and you don't at that point, but at least, you know, the indications were there. This was a well-advertised storm, too. It wasn't like it, you know, some of our storms, they pop up out of nowhere, and it just happens. The Ohio Valley is notoriously awful when it comes to trying to predict winter weather, but this one was well advertised, so hopefully you had good enough warning ahead of time that this was going to be a big problem. Where was I going with that? Anyway, the next 10 days, because, you know, speaking of talking about things a long time in advance, I only have a few very minimal snow chances. Some of those are this week. We might see a few light flakes on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can see some of these pushing through at times. There we go. And a Thursday, Friday, maybe another few flakes. Nothing that's really going to stick all that well. But other than that, I think the cold is just our biggest issue through the work week. Saturday could be interesting in our easternmost communities. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Right now, most of the tri-state looks fine, but there is a snowstorm that's rolling through Appalachia, and that could bring us a chance for some flakes in our easternmost communities, so something to keep an eye on. Sunday, not bad, and then Monday, Groundhog Day, the worst holiday we have. That is looking a little snowy. That's a long ways out, but at least there's a chance. So like I said, on the 15th, ahead of our most recent snowstorm here we're still dealing with, there's a chance. So something to keep an eye on. Just kind of write it down in your calendar there and be prepared for next Monday. That would be the 2nd of February, Groundhog Day. We could see some snow showers. Speaking of Groundhog Day, Alex here asking, is the groundhog going to predict 6 more weeks of winter or early spring? If he doesn't predict an early spring, I'm going to find that groundhog. and we're not going to have a Groundhog Day next year. Because I think we're all looking forward to spring, which I think the last check is like, what, 53 days away? It's March the 20th this year, and nobody likes Groundhog Day. I have a groundhog, by the way, that lives under my porch, so we'll see what that one says. Haven't seen it in a while, though. Wednesday next week, another slim chance for some snow showers. So not much in the way of snow, which is great because we have plenty to last us for a while. And it will last us a while. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Every low temperature, even through Saturday morning here, is going to be below zero. That's not factoring in the wind chill. That is every temperature below zero from here on out here until we hit the weekend. And then it's a balmy zero on Sunday and not much warmer than that, just the 20s by Wednesday and Thursday of next week. The feels like trend, again, highlighting that zero line right across the center of your screen, shows you that most of that time will be spent in the feels like department below zero. Just a few spikes maybe into the teens by maybe Thursday. That's it. That's when the winds calm down a bit. Here's a look at the first 7 of a 10-day forecast. Hopefully that answers most of your questions. I got to call the radio, do a little record, and then I'm going to take a break because I've been here for a while. Not just today, but last couple days, as you know. First 7 of a 10-day forecast with all that bitter cold in place, at least through Saturday morning. To be consistent, I know it's kind of annoying. At times it can be kind of annoying to see all the flashing lights and all that kind of stuff, but we do want to give you that heads up, that first alert that it is going to be really, really cold this week. Not even just wind chill. Actual temperatures for the mornings are going to be below zero. Our normal low this time of the year should be 22. So that's more than 20 degrees, more than 30 most days, really, below where we should be for this time of the year and below zero. And then when you factor in the wind chill, many of these mornings, including tomorrow morning, Friday morning, and Saturday morning, are going to be about 20 to 25 below zero. Not a pleasant stretch. Slick spots are going to linger right on through the end of this week. But any kind of new snow accumulation, if we're going to see that, it's going to be Monday of next week or maybe Wednesday of next week. But those are both a long ways out. We'll keep an eye on that. Ask my groundhog to bring out the spring or move out. He will be evicted. He or she will be evicted if we're not saying early spring. 13 inches. It's going to be there for a while. We do not have any significant warm-ups. That is Thursday, February 5th. Thursday, February 5th, 10 days away, is the next chance we have to see freezing or better. 32 degrees, and even with that, it's going to come with a few flakes out there. So, long haul is here. I'm going to have to look at the historical numbers and, take a look at this and see where we stand in terms of all-time cold. Because I know if you get like an extended stretch, we've already seen some ice chunks floating down the river. I don't think it's going to be as cold as the stretch we saw in the 70s. I do have some numbers written down, the coldest 10-day stretches of average, both high and low temperature. I don't think we get there, but the coldest average 10-day stretch was back in 1989 when the average for highs and lows was 4.1 degrees. I think we're going to miss that by a little bit. The number 5 is a 7. That was back in 77, another popular year. We had 2 stretches in 77 when we're talking about freezing the river up, which averaged 5 to 7 degrees. Before that, it was 1899 that we saw a really, really deep cold stretch. So a lot of popular years in there when it came to big winter years, and of course big cold too. We'll keep an eye on things. I don't think we break any records. We'll see, but it could be one of our coldest feels-like stretches we've seen in quite a while through the rest of this week. So stay warm outside. It's the real deal. This is a lot of cold. I don't hype anything up. I try not to anyway, right? You got to have fun with the snow pictures, but when it comes to stuff like this, just be safe out there. If you don't have to be out and about, stay inside, stay warm. Enjoy the little bit of sunshine. If you are going to be out and about driving, that's the other big threat today, if you want to call it that, is just going to be the blinding sunshine. There's a word in the weather world called, just general science world called albedo. It's an amount of reflectivity off of objects. Like if you go to a beach and there's white sand, that's a very high albedo, and very similar to that is this very fresh snow. Snow has one of the highest albedos or reflectivity rates anywhere. So if you don't want to burn out your retinas today, take the sunglasses if you're going to be out and about driving on these slick roads. Watch out for the slick spots. Blowing snow back onto the roads is going to be a problem here for the next couple of days. And if you're looking for the warm-up, you're going to have to wait a little while. 32, the warmest we're going to get the next 10 days. We'll be back today at 3 and 4 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in for the 19 and noon weather show. As always, we appreciate you. We'll see you again at 3 and 4, and then again through the rest of this evening. Stay warm.